Welcome back this morning to the Tobago Updates Morning Show. Never a dull moment on set. We've got chatting with us this morning Assemblyman Terance Baynes, the Secretary for the Division of Community Development, Youth Development and Sport. Along with him, Michelle Burris, Coordinator for Community Development, Youth Development and Sport. And viewers, this morning our focus is, they're going to give us a synopsis on COMDEV's recent Jamaica trip. As well, we're going to get some information on their social and community development programs. Good morning and welcome to you.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning to all our viewers, and we are very thankful for the opportunity to sit here with your good self.
All right, it was always good to have you with us. Let's kick things off this morning by chatting about your recent trip to Jamaica. Remind our viewers this morning of the purpose of this trip. Was it all fun and games, as many would like to believe?
Yeah, easy. Well, you would remember that some months ago, to a place where we have district financing, community financing, so that these communities can be empowered to engage in projects and stuff in the community that is of paramount importance to them. It really is a seed act, in the sense that we want to arrive at a place where there is a kind of devolution of power in the communities, where everybody don't look to the center. You know, it takes the pressure off the center, it empowers the community to be innovative and so on. And they, for the most part, know the things that are important to them and the things that they want to prioritize in the various districts, as against like the executive sitting in a place and making those decisions on behalf of the communities. And we intend to roll this out in all 15 constituencies here in Tobago. And so the idea was to start with a seed, I call it a seed act, if you want to put it that way, $150,000 per constituency or per community, per area or district. And in order for us to do that effectively, obviously, we needed to have a full proof. This particular ideal, and so we did some work on our own, and Ms. Burris, and her team been exceptional in terms of putting the foundations together and policies and so on. But we knew that Jamaica had a very good program actually working, and so we thought it was prudent, because of the nature of this whole bill out. We wanted to make sure that we dot all the I's and cross all the T's. Obviously, we gathered some information from the Commonwealth CDF. They have some plans and some principles and stuff that are functional in some other jurisdictions. But what we heard about Jamaica, we felt it was prudent to see that firsthand and see how it works and so on, and have that impact what we were doing in terms of our final policy document and so on. And it was an amazing journey. It was an inspirational one. It was certainly an educational one, and we feel that we are now ready for the final touches on the proposal. Well, not the proposal. I'm sorry, my words are not coming too well today. The final touches on the policy itself. The draft. And then we begin to roll this out in the communities.
All right. Now, I know that communities differ based on the islands. In terms of the similarities that you would have seen or experienced from Tobago and Jamaica, what did you notice? I mean, how similar are we? How different are we? Give us an idea in terms of what you saw.
Well, I mean, there is a commonality with all of us in the Caribbean region. There's no question about that. I mean, Jamaica size, topography, mentality of the people, and that kind of thing. Those things kind of stood out to me more than anything else, especially their drive to run their own affairs. It seems to me this philosophy that we have about moving towards management of our own affairs, you know, whether we call that self-determination, internal self-government, but we see that to me was manifested in the thinking of the people. You understand? I mean, some of the communities that we visited, I mean, you know, there are some poverty areas and those kinds of things, but the people themselves found ways to innovatively service their communities and try to treat with their problems and so as much as they could have with very little resources. When I say resources, I'm talking about actually cash, you know, coming from the government. What the government seemed to be providing was policy directions and the legal framework for them to operate and do what they wanted to do. But in terms of innovation, coming together as communities, as individuals, and finding the resource themselves, we saw that, and that really inspired me.
All right, let's chat a little bit here with Michelle Burris, coordinator. Michelle, always a pleasure having you on the program.
Good morning, Ria.
Good morning.
Good morning to the listening and viewing public.
So you were also a part of this team that went off to Jamaica.
Yes.
In terms of the community programs, I say Pastor Bishop, Pastor Assemblyman Baynes, said a little while ago that you were managing the team that was able to put the framework for this program together. In terms of what you were able to observe and take away from that Jamaica trip, Grenada somehow is on my mind this morning, but from that Jamaica trip, tell us some of what you were able to take away based on what you know of Tobago.
Sure. Jamaica being the largest Caribbean island in the Commonwealth, with a population of approximately 3 million people. Tobago can fit into Jamaica so many times. And looking at the programs, the social intervention programs in Jamaica, what I took away from that is the patriotic nature of the people. How involved they were in their respective communities, how much they loved their Jamaica, that's one. And two, the involvement of the private sector in these community grassroots projects in terms of their support financially and otherwise. That I took away from that. So you're seeing an excellent marriage between the government of the day and the private sector in terms of ensuring that grassroots projects at the community level are identified, approved, managed, monitored by the community. So at the level of the parliamentarians, in their case, our case assemblymen, you find that there is a clarion call through these projects, through the Constituency Development Fund, for the parliamentarians to be responsible for their respective constituencies. And with that being said, they are responsible for ensuring that they meet regularly with their constituents, drizzle down into what the basic needs of the constituents are, because in many cases sometimes if you don't if there's a disconnect between the people and their various representatives, the projects that are mandatory or projects that are necessary for the building and the equipping of these communities are the projects that never get done. So there is that whole connection from the community level. Who else better to know what the community needs than the communities themselves? And with these regular meetings between the parliamentarians and the communities, various faith-based, community-based groups of all natures and kinds, NGOs and so on, and members of the different private sector organizations, you find that each community is different in Jamaica, Just like in Tobago, as our faces differ, so our communities
That's right.
differ, and the needs of these communities also differ. And with that, the priority projects are determined by the communities or the constituencies. Some may have a monetary attachment, some may not. But all the projects are discussed, are decided, are ranked as to the priority for the particular fiscal. Because the release of funding to the Constituency Development Fund, it's a pool that is administered through the Office of the Prime Minister in their case. And there is a subcommittee of the House of Representatives that approves the respective projects coming out of the constituencies. From that, within the Office of the Prime Minister, there is a Constituency Development Fund project implementation unit that is responsible for the administration, management, and dissemination of funding towards these projects.
Now, again, every community is different. How do we begin the discussion and the move, the drive to change the mindset of this or these are communities away from dependence on the government, dependence on the THA, to being a little bit more self-sufficient, being a little bit more independent. We see scenarios day in, day out. There is a pothole in your community. It is distressing all of us. We all have to pass through this bocus in the road. But we will sit and wait until the government, the THA, does something about it. We will quarrel. We will picket. We will take action. We will strike. We will encourage young persons to block the roads. We will not sit and decide, let us raise funds, let us do X, Y, Z to repair this because this is our community. There is a drug block on the community. We will not take action against it. We will sit and wait until the THA decides to do something about it. The church will not stand up against it. The community will not stand up against it. But we will sit and wait. How do we begin to change the mindsets?
Well, I mean, I think that the area reps would have to take the lead in this evangelization, obviously.
I like how you term it.
You understand? And I have to say that since we started talking about this, that there's been a growing interest in the communities. I'm sure we are not at the place that we really want to be in terms of a holistic changing of mentality. But there's been some interest. I suspect it is because reward sweetens labor. You understand? But there is some interest, and I know that we as the area reps we'll have to kind of fly this flag. We're not sure in terms of timeline how long it's going to take, but I think that when we begin rolling out the thing and we are going to look at where we are and you know, and kind of do a litmus test as to the response of the population, because I feel that human beings innately have the capacity to be independent. You know, we as individuals, you will find that we may face certain challenges in this life's journey, but we find a way to be innovative. There are times especially if your life, your survival depends on it, you will find a way. So it's not that we don't have the ability, but if you have been nurtured in an environment where everything is provided for you, you will begin to think and you begin to live that way, because that is so. It will take some work to move people away from that. And I think the whole philosophy of the importance of government and the role of government and so on, those are conversations that we have to have about this present time and season. We have resource challenges and all of that, and we have to be innovative now to see how we use the resources that we have and how we can explore other sources of income and so on. And I think that the independence of the people of Tobago, the independence that we have, that is in our history, that independence have been diffused over the years by various reasons, but I think that we have to find a way to reignite that passion and reignite that fire in the average to be going and of wanting to take charge of your own destiny, wanting to take charge of the community. And just the point you just raised a while ago is so acid in that people will drive around a pothole there, and that pothole, it could be fixed with some concrete and whatever. And I'm not saying that it does not take away from the responsibility of the division.
No.
But the division of works, for instance, is just stretched. You understand? Because we have not recovered from the damages of October last year yet. Remember, we are still working on the infrastructure and trying to rectify some of those problems. And that infrastructure was aging prior to all these things. So there were fixes that were needed. You understand? So while Secretary James and his team and they are doing works all over the island, they may not be able to come to a pothole in front of your house. You understand? That has been there for some months, and you can do one or two things. You can complain and you can have a protest or whatever, or you can have, as a community, you come together and say, maybe we could just mix a little concrete and put this in the hole.
Use it as an opportunity to teach even the young persons in the community how to mix cement.
Yes.
How to apply.
Indeed.
How to repair.
Indeed. And so I think that this district funding is we are trying to partner with the community. Really, you understand what I'm saying? We want to do this thing together, and I think that once we're able to roll this out and roll it out effectively, that is going to drive where we're trying to get to ideally.
All right, I think Ms.
Yes, just to add to what Pastor is saying, there's a word that comes to mind when we speak about, in terms of answering or adding to the answer to your question, inclusiveness. If I feel as part of
when there's buy-in,
the decision-making process, you will find it will be easier for me to give my contribution in whatever way. From a community development standpoint, we always talk about sustainable community development. And that is evolving, right? With the different players in the game, persons must feel a part of the process. Information must be shared all around for persons to be part of this whole process. And with this whole community development funding, it is an avenue, it is a vehicle, a tool where funding can be provided for grassroots projects. Bursaries to children for educational purposes. In some cases, as seen in Jamaica, different sums are allocated for response to disasters in various communities as a quick response to a number of social ills that communities are faced with that require some type of financial intervention.
So tell us at this time what the division is offering, who can access it, and how.
Yeah. Well, the community development really the rollout of this program will be under the purview of community development. All the attendant supporting systems will be activated for this process. And it will be, like I said, rolled out in all 15 constituencies. We want to make the point and make it abundantly clear that this is not at all an attempt by the state to negate its responsibility to its citizens, but rather to enhance the governance landscape and to have a more people-centered approach as it relates to the development of the island. And as Ms. Burris rightfully said, when people are a part of what is taking place, you get more, and you get no government has all the ideas. You understand? None of us that sit at the executive council know everything about every constituency, but certainly the people that live there, they have some ideas, and they are more knowledgeable of the things that they need more than us. And so this is the liaison activity that is supposed to take place between the area rep and the persons in the communities and so on. That would certainly have to be a matter that will be optimized You understand? So it will compel area reps as well to be more intimately involved in the various communities and so on. So it is ideally what we are looking at is a partnership for the development of the island.
All right.
You know?
Thank you. Ms. Burris, you wanted to add?
Just to add, in our information seeking and networking mission, that's what I call it, in observing what Jamaica has done with this CDF, they have based their CDF largely on the principles and guidelines of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. And from these guidelines, you have things such as transparency, accountability, that whole inclusiveness, monitoring and evaluation, administration and management. All of these are form part of what is used to guide. So whereas you have the whole idea of adopting this CDF or the Tobago's version of it, you have a policy. And this policy addresses this need to include communities in their own development at a grassroots level. So you have your policy is submitted to the subcommittee developed from the House of Representatives. That policy now, once approved, under the Division of Community Development, Youth Development and Sport, there will be now a project implementation section, unit, if you want to call it that. That's part of the whole thing for the administration and management and dissemination of funds to these various constituencies that have been approved by the subcommittee.
So at what stage is the program at this point?
Right.
And I mean, my director is saying here, we've got to wrap things.
Well, we almost there. Actually, the journey that journey would have informed. We just needed, outside of the information that we had gathered and where we were with the policy, we just needed an additional amount of information, and this journey really helped us with that. So we expect that in the coming week, we just had a setback this week, but in the coming week, we shall have the full framework that will come to the Executive Council and so on, and we will be ready to roll out thereafter.
And so you will be back with us to give us a further idea of...
If you compel us so to do.
Thank you so much. But as we're wrapping up with you both, I want to share very quickly here 2 comments coming in on the live. It's irresponsible to expect the community to do the work the state should do. I can agree with community involvement as per self-help, but not communities doing it on their own. And I don't think that's what we were saying.
Of course not.
As well, another comment coming in here from Ostra Trotman. Inclusiveness, yes, but we must also holistically regain our pride in our Tobago and stop making it about self-help and political party.
I mean, and I think that this program, this project really is a step in that direction.
A step in that direction. And I trust that August Alfred understands the direction in which the conversation was going, and where the division is certainly headed, to allow persons to be, to have that buy-in. This is where I live, let me be proud of where I live, let me contribute to where I live. Yeah? All right, so thank you so much again for being with us this morning. Assemblyman Terance Baynes, Assemblyman Bishop Pastor Terance Baynes, got to put it in, and Coordinator Michelle Burris. You should see his face in the corner here.
You're having fun. Like you're having fun with this thing.
Yes, certainly. Always a pleasure chatting with you on the Tobago Updates Morning Show. There was lots more coming up on the program. You don't want to miss it. We're going to, in fact, Adana's going to be chatting with Alison Campbell when we come back, and she's the reservation supervisor attached to the Magdalena Grand Beach and Gulf Resort. She's going to be on our program as we talk about the Magdalena for Jazz 2023. All right, so that's coming up, viewers, and this is your opportunity to share the live, share the live, share the live.